Okay, let's dive into the secret history of a song you've probably never heard from a band you definitely have. See, back in 1984, the Thompson twins put out this track that was basically designed to be forgotten. But now, 40 years later, it's making this incredible, unlikely comeback. We're talking about the story of Passion Planet. So, how in the world does a song that even the band called a throwaway turn into a cult classic 40 years down the line? It's a great question. And the story of Passion Planet is this amazing lesson in how music, somehow, against all odds, finds its people. All right, first, a quick bit of context, especially if you didn't grow up flipping vinyl records. Back in the 80s, singles had two sides. You had the A side, that was the hit song, right? And then you had the B side. This was the spot for the weird stuff, the experiments, the tracks that just didn't quite fit on the album. They were kind of like a little treat for the diehard fans, but you almost never heard them on the radio. And that's exactly where this whole story begins. It's March 1984, and the Thompson twins are at the absolute peak of their fame. They release the single You Take Me Up from their massive album, Into the Gap. But, the real story here wasn't the A-side. Nope. It was hiding on the flip side with a quirky little track called Passion Planet. And man, the difference between these two songs couldn't be bigger. I mean, You Take Me Up was this big, stomping, almost folk industrial anthem about labor and work. And then you flip it over, and Passion Planet is its complete opposite. A super high energy, hedonistic synth pop track all about astrology and hangovers. Seriously, one song was about the daily grind, the other was pure escape. Now, by all accounts, Passion Planet should have just disappeared, right? Just another forgotten B-side. But it didn't. A series of really specific, almost accidental things happened in 1984 that gave this song a secret life of its own. Let's get into exactly how that went down. Okay, so it all kicked off with this really clever marketing gimmick. The single came out as 3 different picture discs, and each one was a piece of a bigger, interlocking puzzle of the band. So if you were a real superfan, you had to buy all 3 to complete the picture. And what was on the B-side of every single one of them? Yep, Passion Planet. The band basically force-fed this song to their most dedicated followers. But it wasn't just the hardcore collectors who got it. Then there was the cassette tape. See, the double-play version of the album Into the Gap came with a whole side of bonus tracks. And yep, Passion Planet was right there. So for millions of people, this song wasn't some obscure B-side at all. It was just part of the album they were blasting in their cars and on their Walkmans. But here's where the story takes a really bizarre turn. And it all happened in one very specific place. As the band's frontman Tom Bailey later said, while the rest of the world was listening to the big hits, something totally different was going on out on the west coast of the US. And this is where the massive power of a single radio station comes into play. The legendary KROQ in Los Angeles. They just completely ignored what the record label wanted. They flipped the single over and started playing Passion Planet in heavy rotation. And suddenly, in the huge LA market, this supposed throwaway track was a real, genuine regional hit. Of course, it definitely helped that the song itself was just so wonderfully weird. I mean, the lyrics are this bizarre mix of like a horoscope reading and advice for the morning after a big night out. It mentions Sagittarius and Libra, and then it just casually drops a line about a specific brand of painkiller. It's pure 80s art school chaos and totally unforgettable. So, after 1984, Passion Planet pretty much faded away. It became this kind of secret handshake for the hardcore fans who were in on the joke. But the story doesn't end there, not by a long shot. The song's 40-year journey back into the spotlight, now that's where things get really interesting. And look, the song's climb back to being relevant was a long and slow one. I mean, it didn't even show up on a CD until 2008. But the real vindication, the moment it all came full circle, that happened much, much later, with the band itself giving it the official nod. Now, that first digital release back in 2008, it was a bit of a mixed blessing. I mean, it was great to finally have the song on CD, but the reissue got a lot of criticism for its audio quality. A lot of fans pointed out that the bonus tracks, especially Passion Planet, sounded like they were just recorded straight from an old vinyl record. You could even hear the pops and crackles. The definitive version was still missing. Well, that moment finally arrived in 2024.
For the 40th anniversary of the Into the Gap album, this song finally got the deluxe treatment it always deserved. It was fully remastered from the original tapes at the legendary Abbey Road Studios. No joke. After 4 long decades, Passion Planet finally sounded as crisp and as powerful as it was always meant to.
So after this long and winding journey, what is the ultimate legacy of Passion Planet? I mean, why does this strange little B-side continue to fascinate fans, even 40 years later? Well, I think the real answer came in 2025. The Thompson twins released a massive, career-spanning collection called Industry and Seduction, and it was curated by all 3 original members. And right there on the second disc, titled Deep Cuts and Babble, what do you find? Passion Planet. It was no longer just some forgotten B-side. It was officially crowned by the band as a deep cut, an essential piece of their history. So you see, Passion Planet didn't survive by accident. It was a total perfect storm. You had that aggressive, fan-focused marketing with the jigsaw puzzles. You had the immense power of a single tastemaker radio station like KROQ. It was included on a super popular format, the cassette. And of course, the song itself just had this quirky, unforgettable personality that refused to be ignored. And this whole story leaves us with one final thought. The journey of Passion Planet was completely driven by things like physical media and influential regional radio DJs. So it really makes you wonder, right? In today's world of global streaming and all these predictive algorithms, how many other hidden gems, how many other B-sides are just sitting out there, waiting to be rediscovered by one random playlist?